Dr. Ehrlich, your main concern has been the population bomb, as you call it in your book. What hope is there?
We've got to use political processes. In the not-too-distant future, the government will simply tell you how many children you can have and throw you in jail if you have too many.
I do know that at this time, unless now we think of what America is going to be like in the year 2000, this increase in population, and do something about it to stop that pressure, we're going to reap the whirlwind. Because look at what the year 2000 will be. If the present trends continue, our cities are going to be choked with people, and they will be impossible places in which to live, and the explosions will be even worse.
We hear so much about overpopulation in countries like India and South America. Is there not perhaps a more real problem there than here?
Well, the problem in South America or in India is the growth rate's extremely fast, and this is going to lead to a tremendous amount of starvation there.
If we do not, by humane means, limit our numbers, then numbers are going to be limited by more famines and shortages.
The disaster will take the form of famine, plague, or war. They're mankind's old companions, fundamentally. You just got to remember this. There's no way out of the arithmetic. There will never be 7 billion people in the year 2000.
And now a milestone for all of us on this planet today. The United Nations declared that today the world's population reached 7 billion people.
That relentless population clock just keeps on ticking and ticking.
Well, if they kept such a clock in Italy, it would be ticking backwards. The government there thinks there are not enough Italians.
Demographers warn that the shrinking population could drag the country into an unprecedented economic crisis.
Dire predictions of an overpopulated planet have been with us for centuries. What if they're just plain wrong?
Alert! The number of babies born in America last year falling to a 32-year low.
But there's already a population crisis hitting major economies across the globe.
Look at these numbers. How do you explain this decline?
You've got cases like Japan where adult diapers outsell baby diapers.
The world's falling birth rate isn't on the list of major threats to life as we know it, but it soon will be. Taxes are destined to soar, pension systems will become unsustainable, while our healthcare systems won't be able to cope with the ratio of old people to take care of compared to the shrinking number of taxpayers. Businesses will struggle to find workers to hire, school closures will accelerate, while social care will continually be slashed.
And they say it's an economic time bomb.
I'm worried about the birth rate. Most people think we have like too many people on the planet, but actually this is an outdated view. I think that the biggest problem the world will face in 20 years is population collapse. Collapse. I want to emphasize this. The biggest issue in 20 years will be population collapse.
He's a good person, but he was not ready to be a father. After the breakup, I start everything from zero. That's why I got very personal, very emotional because when you first know that your partner didn't want, it's quite heartbreaking. โทษทีนะพี่หนูไม่ได้แบบคือหนูไม่ได้เล่าให้ใครฟังไงว่า
This is my story too. My husband is granted that he is great, but you see, he still enjoy his other life, his drinking and all that.
อ๋อพี่ไม่เคยรู้เรื่องราวขนาดนี้ไงโทษทีนะพี่เขาบอกว่าพี่ไม่เคยรู้ลึกขนาดนั้นยังไม่ค่อยรู้
Why are people having so few children? The more I read about falling birth rates, everything was negative. You enter a downward spiral. As you have fewer and fewer children, you have fewer and fewer future mothers, which in turn goes on and on and on. And no society in history has been known to come out of that spiral. I started the birthgap project in Cambridge, Massachusetts in 2016 after seeing data for Germany showing there are only half the number of children there now compared to 50 years ago.
What are we going to talk about today?
Global population collapse, what else? A fun topic. How's the audio? As a lifelong learner, I had been brushing up my skills on data science. My goal had been to find an explanation to one of the world's great mysteries. Why did the number of children being born in Italy, Japan, and Germany fall so rapidly at the exact same time? Whether data can help answer that question or not, one thing's for certain, with this trend having spread across the entire industrialized world and beyond, we're all going to notice. Due to globalization, a worldwide cascade of shrinking economies will affect all nations, including the US. But it's not just economic issues. Societies with low birth rates are destined to have a burgeoning number of older people to support. Humanity has never faced such a crisis.
For a society with a sizable population to experience continuous and very rapid population decline in a prosperous and peaceful time, it's never happened in human history. There's no precedence.
Should we be worried about population decline?
Population decline is a form of social change. Can government be a practical substitute for the family structure that we took for granted up until, let's say, like breakfast yesterday morning? That's going to be really hard, I think.
Am I right that people aren't talking enough about this?
In my view, incontestably you're correct. So why aren't they talking about it more? Well, to some degree, maybe people haven't been run over by this problem themselves yet.
Do people talk much about falling birth rates?
I don't think that people talk a lot about this. It's a minor problem, I think.
Are you worried about America's long-term low birth rates?
I don't think it's a terrible thing. Culturally, birth rates have different rising and fallings.
Are people worried about this, about not having children? Do you worry about it?
I don't worry. Do you worry?
No.
We don't worry
No, you
about
don't
these
worry.
things. We have other things to worry about.
But is it really a problem? Is it bad for the country? No. Is it bad for workforces? We have robots. We have much more automated work. So why is it a problem?
What people usually don't think about, it's a little bit counterintuitive, but what is unavoidable is massive graying, massive aging of the society. And so all of these places in the world which are under substantial below replacement childbearing for decade after decade are on a trajectory not only for shrinking, but also for really massive population aging.
So you were shocked about hearing
I was really shocked. The professor told us that, our generation is decreasing, so that we need to protect our older generation. And he showed the statistics. I'm really worrying about Japanese future.
What Germany?
Let's look at Germany. This is the map.
Oh dear. Look at that.
I would not have expected this. I was not aware of this. Not at all. What's the impact of this? Huh?
Understanding population trends can be tricky, partly because it takes decades for changes to play out. Initially, low birth rates are almost undetectable except to maternity wards, but soon enough, we'll find closing schools, businesses that can't find staff to hire, and then close because they can't find enough customers. And meanwhile, the cost of providing our older generations with healthcare and pensions will continue to rise and rise as more and more people live longer and longer. To understand the scale of the problem, we just need to look at the world's falling fertility rates and how many countries have fallen below the population tipping point. Demographers call this tipping point the replacement level, when women on average are having 2 children that survive into adulthood. Today, 75% of us live in countries below that tipping point, and yet somehow our focus has remained on fears of never-ending population growth.
In the world of statistics, Hans Rosling is a rock and roll star. And in an era where the talk is of rapid population growth, he uses hard data to try to communicate the opposite story. Here's a clip from his film, airing tomorrow night on BBC Two.
Up to 8, and then it goes up to 9, and then it goes here. But see, it's slowing down. By the end of the century, it's becoming more flat there. And if I do a
No one could explain population trends better than the late Hans Rosling, including why our total headcount will increase for a while despite the number of children having peaked.
Now, this will confuse you, because how can then the total population grow like this if the children doesn't increase? Where will all these adults come from? And to explain that, I will show you the world population, ladies and gentlemen, in the form of foam blocks. 1 block is 1 billion. We have 2 billion children in the world. Then we have 2 billion between 15 and 30 years of age. We have 1 billion 30 to 45. We have 1 billion 45 to 60. And then we have my block, 60 years and older. We are here on top. Huh? So this is what we have today. Now, what will happen in the future? Do you know what happens to old people like me? They die. The rest, they grow 15 years older and have 2 billion children. These ones are now old, time to die. And then these ones grow 15 years older and they have 2 billion children. This one die and the rest grow 15 years older and have 2 billion children. And without increasing the number of children, without increasing the length of life, we have 3 billion people more by this big inevitable fill-up of adults, which will happen just when the large young generations grow up.
Hans Rosling's building blocks explain beautifully how the world's total population is going to fill up with older people and not children. Yet before this project, I had no idea about low birth rates outside of Europe and Japan.
I would say at the moment, we can break the world down into 2 components if we oversimplify. Sub-Saharan Africa and everybody else. If we take all of the rest of the world, all of non-Sub-Saharan Africa, we're already below the replacement level. And we've been below the replacement level for a little while now.
Barring compensating immigration, no society can survive long-term below this replacement level tipping point. And the farther down birth rates go, the faster they will decay, or to use the correct mathematical term, exponentially decay. Nations like Japan, Italy and Germany, with birth rates around 1.4 children per woman, will decay by around 1/3 per generation, meaning that in 2 generations, the underlying population will fall by over half, and in 3 generations, by 70%. But it turns out, ultra-low birth rates go far beyond these countries.
All, without exception, all industrialized countries, developed countries, have below replacement fertility.
And we know what happens with continuing below replacement fertility. What's working pretty well now, manifestly, is going to be unsustainable a generation from now if you just do the arithmetic.
It's striking, and there is no single explanation. In different contexts, you have very different stories.
But the trend started around the same time in the early 1970s.
Yes, that's amazing, the amazing thing. And in the West, this is attributed to the pill. In Japan, the pill was introduced in the early 1990s.
So it's interesting, though, that while Europe blamed the contraceptive pill for the fall in birth rates,
it's not the case in Japan.
But yet it was falling at the same time.
At the same time, yeah.
It's so difficult to describe, and it may be very different things in different places that are causing these changes.
In our culture, it's completely different. Like in Western context, about 1/3 of babies are born after marriage. But in Japan, marriage and childbearing are closely associated. So it's very different.
And again, there is something strange. In Germany, education is fully subsidized. completely opposite to Japan, because education in Japan is very expensive. So there are lots of contradictions.
As a statistician looking at raw numbers, if you just look at that coldly, you'd say the probability that there's some common driving factor is very high. Why is it in Japan many people have no children? Why the population's going down? Why women having so few children? Are you worried about there being so few children in Japan now?
He's in a rush. She doesn't know.
She doesn't know.
Yeah.
Samimasen, speak English? Eigo? Okay. Still really don't understand why Japanese people are having only 1.3 children.
Yes. I don't know. Why?
Well, the weird thing is that many women want to have children, but I don't know why, like the current society is struggling with low birth rate.
Young people has maybe losing some expectation for their bright futures, I think. Working long time is a very easy solution. You can so easily escape from such kind of discussions.
We're talking about why in Japan population is going down because people don't get married, people don't have children. Why?
I don't know. It's taxes problem.
Tax problem?
Yes, taxes problem.
I love Steven!
Just from your perspective, first of all, I mean, are you aware that in northern Italy that there is a low birth rate? Is this a surprise to you? Why here?
Yeah, I'm not really surprised about this. Yeah, maybe the people think that they cannot give a good future to the children.
So I think having a career is not easily combinable with children, especially in modern careers where you have flexible work hours, which means no one checks on your hours, but also no one caps your hours, so you can work a lot.
Pourquoi les gens avoir moins d'enfants?
Honnêtement, j'ai aucune idée.
Why? Why is this happening? I don't know. I don't know.
Maybe they think that they can live a happy life if they have the children because they have to work just to have a baby, you know?
After 50 years of unsustainably low birth rates, countries in Europe and Japan are fast becoming inverted worlds with too many retirees for the shrinking workforces to support. If we look at Italy, for example, in 2019 there were around 1 million people aged 50 who will be retiring in around 20 years' time. Then, if we look at the number of newborns who, in around 20 years' time, will be entering the workforce to support these retirees, they're less than half. Any large gap between the number of newborns and the number of people they will have to support into retirement is significant socially and economically. Given that these gaps are being caused by long-term low birth rates, I decided to call any shortfall in workers birth gaps. I wanted to show these birth gaps on a series of regional maps. First, I coloured any regions that did have more babies than 50-year-olds green. But in regions where there were too few children being born, I used increasingly dark shades of red, with the darkest red meaning there are less than half the number of babies being born compared to the older people they would need to support. And at the centre of any region with a birth gap, I put a gaping black hole proportional to the drop in the number of children.
Oh wow, it's a big gap.
It's kind of scary.
Yeah, that's crazy. Wow.
Oh. Gosh, it's major, isn't it?
It's like a shock. For me, it's like a shock. What are we making with our future? We are crazy. Yeah, this is not good.
It's clear. It's a very powerful transformation.
But now I want to show you, let's jump to somewhere else
Deutschland, yeah.
Germany.
Yeah. Auf Wiedersehen.
Wiedersehen. While this trend only affected parts of Europe 50 years ago, by the 1990s, birth gaps had spread to every corner of the continent. Even Scandinavia, a region known for its gender equality and parental benefits, wasn't immune. In Denmark, a country that offers 1 year paid leave and free education, the birth gap had reached 30%. There had even been a campaign. Do it for Denmark.
Kan sex redde Danmarks fremtid? Danmark har et problem, og der fødes ikke nok børn til at forsørge den aldrende befolkning. Skiftende regeringer har ikke kunne løse problemet, men der må være en løsning. Do it for Denmark.
But it's not only Denmark in this coveted part of the world. In 2019, Erna Solberg, Prime Minister of Norway, became the first global leader to address her people on the birth gap crisis.
Norge trenger flere barn. Vi nordmenn får stadig færre barn. For å opprettholde folketallet må hver av oss kvinner få litt mer enn 2 barn i gjennomsnitt. I dag er tallet 1,6. Da blir det relativt sett færre unge som skal bære en stadig tyngre velferdsstat på sine skuldre.
Elementary school teachers across these countries are starting to notice.
School leaders are talking about less kids coming in the next few years, so obviously we're going to have less classes and less jobs for teachers.
Do you think people should be talking about this more?
I think so, yes. I think so, because me as a young teacher, I'm not thinking about this, but maybe I should do more.
Some countries like the UK and France, while following this same trend, had smaller birth gaps of less than 20%. But what was most concerning was some of the larger countries in Europe. Some regions of Spain had 50% birth gaps, while parts of Germany and Italy had 60% birth gaps, meaning for every baby being born there will be more than 2 50-year-olds to support into retirement. In 2016, the Italian government decided it was time to step in.
Primo Fertility Day, la prima giornata nazionale di sensibilizzazione e informazione dedicata alla prevenzione della salute riproduttiva.
They quickly found out that people don't like governments telling them to have more children. Meanwhile, businesses are starting to notice.
Che di un arapallo, anche caratteristiche sono mancati, non si sono ripresi nel tempo, nel senso che
By 2020, Italy's birth gap had reached 56%, and every country in Europe except Iceland had more 50-year-olds than newborns. But to find the world's largest birth gap, we need to look elsewhere. South Korea is winning this race to the bottom with a frightening 69% birth gap.
In other news, latest data shows South Korea's total fertility rate fell to a record low last year.
South Korea has beaten its own record in having the world's lowest birth rate. The average number of expected births for women in the country has plunged to 0.72. That was in 2023.
With children becoming a thing of the past in South Korea, a new form of parenting has taken over, raising what they're calling the dog child.
These mothers and fathers are willing to spare no expense to give their dog children only the best. Dogs are like their children, except they're a whole lot cheaper.
While in Japan, there's even an organization that lets young people try out being a parent for a day.
家族留学という取り組みを中心に展開をしています。そしてその場でわからないことはどんどん聞いていきます。子供が泣いた時どうするんですかとか、子供が生まれて変わったことって何ですかとか、どうしてこの人と結婚したんですかとか。
Unlike Europe, where people have the shortest working weeks and longest vacations anywhere, people in Korea and Japan are struggling with work-life balance. And that makes having children an extra challenge.
We don't have any role model in the real world. It's really rare to see how children are raised. We are just really worrying about it. We don't have specific image, so the issue is in our mind, I think. I think
In Japan, married means end of life for the humans.
Japanese work a lot, like for example until like 2 or 3 a.m. I think I'm kind of a woman who wants to pursue the career, but I feel really pessimistic about it because I feel like I should give up my career or my dreams for having children.
Despite the vast differences in culture between Europe and Japan, the world's first signs of ultra-low birth rates emerged in both places at the exact same time, and yet no one has found a connection. It's hard to accept it's just one big coincidence.
Red means low births, black holes mean very big birth. That's pretty bad. No.
何なんだろうってずっと考えてんだけど、これはね、2年経ってわかんないのよ。何だったんだろうって。少子化になる原因って何だったんだろう。
He's been thinking, maybe this reason, maybe this reason, maybe this, but still he doesn't know.
太细吗?
This didn't happen overnight. Birth rates have been at ultra-low levels across Japan and Europe for decades. And I remain convinced these trends were connected, but no one had yet found the common factor.
So we know you were responsible for the divorce for Denmark.
Yes. Well, actually, it's Eva Lundgren who is responsible for that campaign. Let me see if she's there.
Fantastic, I appreciate it.
She'll be here in around 15 minutes.
So we'll do it right here.
Yeah, we can do it here.
So what was the inspiration for deciding to make this campaign?
At the time of this campaign, there had been small stories in the serious newspapers, not on front page, but on page 10, 12, 13, that this was a serious issue. It's not a sexy topic, really, but we can make it sexy, so yeah.
Well, you can.
Yeah, I can.
Bevis, du har undfanget et barn, og vind 3 års forbrug af Do It for Denmark.
Why is this happening?
It seems that when my mom was a young mom, her life certainly changed, but not that much. And in our time, it's more like this is a shift in your life that's serious. You have so many things you want to do. You want to educate yourself. You want to find the right partner. You want to have fun. So it seems that the time is never right.
I'm kind of not ready.
Hell no. Hell to the no. I'm not ready to have kids. I've always thought about having kids. I'm also not in a place where I'm married or pregnant or thinking about getting pregnant. So maybe in a few years that'll be another discussion.
All of my friends are head down into their career. None of them are married and none of them have kids. Everybody's just career driven. So I feel so much pressure from my family and Kenny's family. They're constantly asking us, when are you going to have kids? And just trying to explain to them, I just really want to establish my career first.
I'm still very much focused on getting at a certain place in my career before thinking of, my brain cannot even think about that yet.
I've always wanted to have children. I've always wanted to have children while I was young, but not now.
Do you want to have kids?
That's the biggest question I've been asking myself. And ever since we got married, I've been constantly debating with myself on whether I want to have kids. Am I just blaming the environment? Honestly, I don't know the answer. Am I going to regret this if I don't have any kids?
I had to go through the motions and emotions of my life. And I think I had to do my career and do the marriage and get to the mental place of it's time.
I don't want to be that mom that misses my child's first steps because I'm away. I want to wait until I can say, I can afford the time off. It's fine.
So when would that be?
That's the crazy thing. I don't know.
And now, birth gaps are coming to America. By 2020, the exact same trend saw 39 states with more 50-year-olds than newborns, with New England leading the way with a 29% birth gap. America is starting to notice.
Fewer babies born in America last year than at any time since Ronald Reagan. That is what's not. The birth rate is way, way down.
It is. Has it been a surprise to you that low fertility is becoming an issue in the US?
It took a while for us to notice. It took us a little while to catch on, but now that we have, I think people do find it worrying, and justifiably so. There's a lot of economic and public policy reasons that that's going to be a big problem for the US going forward.
You've got more and more older people retiring, being supported by fewer and fewer actual people working, who are in turn having ever fewer babies.
Right.
It's an impossible situation.
Right. The good news for America is that because of immigration, our birth rates stayed high long after everyone else's had fallen, which means that we get a preview in a way that almost no other industrialized country does, which means we can look at those other countries and say, I don't want that. What do we do?
The disturbing trend is that the fertility rate falling below the replacement level. In other words, the workforce becomes too small to support the growing retirees segment. It's a very troubling trend. As you've said before, we've seen it in Japan, Italy, and elsewhere.
Who would have thought we'd open the show with the birth rate falling to the 32-year low?
Having started in Europe and Japan at the exact same time, this trend has spread relentlessly across the entire industrialized world and beyond. And this trend will have long-term consequences for us all. To understand the reality facing us, we need to convert fertility rates into societal half-lives, the time taken for births to half, then half again, and half again. We can visualize this by creating a societal half-life chart. A birth rate of 2.0 children per woman means that births would half every 800 years, but only one notch lower at 1.9 children per woman, and that reduces to only 300 years. Another notch down to 1.8, and it's only 150 years. Move down to where most industrialized nations are today, and births are going to half every 50 to 60 years. For China these days, it's 40 years, while for South Korea, Singapore, Hong Kong, and Taiwan, births are halving in the blink of an eye. The collapse of South Korea's birth rates happened inside a single generation. And with the entire industrialized world now seemingly trapped in this curve to nowhere, this trend was not going to stop here. And the data told me the next victim would be Latin America. So how many brothers and sisters do you have?
Tenho 8.
So you said you liked coming from a larger family, but why did you decide to have a smaller family with only 2 children?
Diferente, você tem acesso à informação. Eu amo meus irmãos, mas lógico que eu não ia ter condições financeiras e nem quero, eu venho de outra realidade.
Então, eu acho que por uma questão da educação no Brasil, dualidade também, eu acredito que é bom assim ter tempo entre uma criança e outra.
Can you see yourself having 3 children? 4 children?
2.
2.
No máximo.
Maximum 2.
Sim.
Do you plan to have children one day?
I do. I actually do plan. Not now, but I do. I'm 31.
Really?
Yes.
So not now. When's a good age?
I don't know if there is a good age.
Gosta de poder fazer as coisas sem ter que se preocupar muito, né? A gente até já tocou nesse assunto, assim, daqui, sei lá, uns 4 anos, a gente vai ter que pensar nisso. Se a gente for ter filho, eu gostaria de ter mais de um.
Se algum dia a gente resolver ter filho, provavelmente a gente vai acabar resolvendo ter só um.
É uma coisa que a gente vai ter que discutir daqui a 4 anos.
Estamos juntos con el padre de mi nena y somos nosotros 3.
es ella sola y no queremos, ambos dos no queremos.
Not 6 more to have 7 children like your mother?
Soy sincera, no. Lo que me falta es paciencia.
Do you think you will have children one day?
Sí, me encantaría, pero más eran. Sí.
Having 4?
No.
How many?
2, 3. 3? Mucho, 3.
For you, do you think you'll have children one day?
No. Espero no tener hijos ni por equivocación ni a propósito.
Eso siento que me quitaría toda mi plata y toda mi libertad.
A que pasar trabajo, a pasar necesidades no sería bueno. Entonces ya, yo creo que con 2 está bien, ya con 3 no podría. No, está bien con 2.
All across Latin America, low birth rates now rival those of Japan, Europe, and the US. This just couldn't be a random series of unfortunate events. There had to be a connection, but the only connection I could find was a common conundrum. When we say replacement rate is when the average woman is having 2 children, of course, not all women are having 2 children. Some will be having 1, some having 3 and 4, and some, for differing reasons, having none. In very simple terms, if we exclude those having more than 4 children, to get an average of 2 children per woman, those having 3 and 4 should be in balance with those having either 1 child or none. To get an overall birth rate of less than 2, it's a mathematical necessity that those having more than 2 are outnumbered by those having none or 1. The lower birth rates go, the proportion of people having no children or 1 child must get greater and greater. The conundrum was that 1-child families were proving hard to find across all of these countries.
I have a younger brother.
I have an older brother, an older sister, and a younger sister.
I have sisters and brothers. 私が2人姉妹で。
今兄弟は4人ですね。I have one sister.
1人兄がいます。
I have a sister and brother.
I have 4 siblings, 2 sisters and 2 brothers.
And when I met those a little older, I got the same response.
You have 2 daughters, is that correct?
Yes, 31 and 33.
Well, I have 3 kids myself.
For myself, I have 2 children, okay, the daughter and son.
My assumption had been that countries with low fertility rates would have many families with only 1 child. And that assumption was held by other people too.
The reason Japan's population is declining, of course, is people are choosing to have smaller families.
But why could I not find these smaller families with only 1 child? Something wasn't right. One of the golden rules of data science is to use the most granular data possible to understand trends. What I needed was an annual measure of childlessness, but it simply didn't exist. The aha moment came when I saw the UN collects data on the number of first-time mothers and the children they then go on to have for many countries. Matching this data with total fertility rate data allowed me to calculate the missing piece in our giant population puzzle. The results connected everything. In Japan in 1974, around half of women were having 2 children, just over 1 in 5 was having 3, a similar number was having 1, and 6% were having 4 or more. Overall, the average Japanese mother was having 2.2 children, and with only 1 person in 20 remaining childless, the overall fertility rate for Japan was 2.1 children per woman. But somehow, over the next 3 short years, childlessness exploded to reach 1 person in 4. Yet the percentage of mothers having 1, 2, 3, or 4 or more children hadn't changed at all. This wasn't a shift to smaller families. This was simply an explosion in childlessness. Wind the clock forward to 1990, and childlessness in Japan had reached 1 in 3 women, and yet the average children per mother had increased slightly to 2.3. Since 1990, this pattern has been locked in Japan, with almost no change to family structure or the 1 in 3 remaining childless. Even the proportion of mothers having 4 or more children has remained at 6%, exactly the same as 1974. Changes in demographics tend to happen slowly, but in Japan in the summer of 1974, something startling happened. Until 1973, the country was booming and the number of babies was booming. There was a new concept around, the concept of the modern apartment with kitchens, flushing toilets, and entertainment space. Apartment complexes were springing up all across Japan, and with no end in sight to the country's economic renewal, this young generation had little to worry about. But the mood was about to change. In October 1973, the global oil shock sent the country into a frenzy, and the young generation that was just settling into their new modern lifestyle suddenly had to confront sharp price rises in food and commodities and shortages of the basics. And the data shows, precisely 9 months later, across every prefecture in Japan, the number of first-time mothers plummeted and would never recover. Childlessness, for 1/3 of Japanese women, became the societal norm. Japan was hit hard by the oil shock. It was the world's largest importer of oil at the time, and across the entire country, many young people decided it wasn't the time to become parents. And we can see from the data, this delaying of parenthood meant that many never would. Across in Europe, Italy is described by academics as having been the worst hit by the oil shock. Family structure in Italy in 1974 was remarkably similar to Japan. On average, mothers were having 2.3 children. Childlessness was even less in Japan, with only 1 in 30 people having no children, meaning that the overall fertility rate was 2.3 children per woman. Wind the clock forward only 3 years, and we find just like Japan, childlessness exploded from 1 in 30 people to 1 in 5. By 1990, 1 in 3 people in Italy were destined to be childless, and by 2018, childlessness had reached 2 in every 5 Italians. Yet throughout this time, just like Japan, family structure hadn't changed at all. But this story isn't about Japan and Italy. Across the entire industrialized world, where we have data, in recent decades there's been no change in family structure. Across these countries in the late 1980s, the average mother was having 2.4 children. 30 years later, that number is exactly the same. And all of these nations, just like Japan and Italy in the 1970s, have transitioned to become childless nations. Nations where 1/3 or more of people will be childless for life. What is fascinating is how these rapid transformations align with major turmoil. For South Korea, it was the currency crisis of the 1990s that saw childlessness rocket to 45%. For Germany, the fall in birth rates coincided with the 1968 student protests. And while Germany is one of the countries that doesn't provide the data needed to calculate childlessness, we can see they followed the same trend as Italy and Japan. But it's not just these countries. The exact same trend can be seen across Spain, Portugal, Austria, Switzerland, and beyond. For America, and many countries around the world, it was the 2007 financial crisis. Before the crisis, the average mother in the US was having 2.5 children, and only 1 in 7 people were childless. Yet just like other financial crises around the world, within a few short years, childlessness would rocket to reach 1 in 3 people. And yet during the same time, the average number of children per mother in the US increased from 2.5 to 2.6. The 2007 financial meltdown was a global crisis, and just like the US, the transition to childlessness happened in Canada, Malaysia, Netherlands, Costa Rica, Ireland, and beyond. With so many examples of crises around the world triggering high levels of childlessness, and with no example of any society ever recovering, this feels like a trap. A birth gap trap where it becomes a societal norm to start families in their 30s, when for many, it simply won't happen. I'd been searching for the answer to the wrong question. Instead of asking why people are having so few children today, I should have been asking why so few people become parents today. It turns out there is no trend towards smaller families. People who do become parents are just as likely to go on to have 2, 3, 4 or more children as decades ago. It's all about having the first child. With childlessness having exploded so fast during times of uncertainty in so many countries, this doesn't feel like childlessness by choice. This feels like unplanned childlessness.
Hello, my name is Jodie Day and I'm a childless woman. And I'd like to introduce you to my tribe. This tribe has always been amongst us, but what's different about it now are the numbers. 1 in 5 women like me, born in the 1960s, turned 45 without having had children. That's double what it was for our mother's generation. It's up to 1 in 4 as what we consider the more family-oriented cultures like Ireland and Italy, and even macho Australia, up to 1 in 3 in Germany and Japan. Now, whilst these numbers don't give us any qualitative information about why a woman might not have children,
we rarely get to hear from the many childless people who had hoped to have a family one day. Yet academic studies, large-scale surveys, and my own research confirm that the majority of childless people had planned to have children one day.
so that leaves a whopping 80% of women without children, childless by circumstance, with those circumstances varying widely, but often featuring the absence of a willing or suitable partner during our fertile years, or even an unsuitable partner. If you'd heard the heartbreaking stories I'd heard.
So a big reason why we're seeing more and more infertility these days is because of delayed childbearing. As women's eggs get older, it just gets harder to get pregnant. Imagine that these are eggs, okay? And this is a 20-year-old. So when a 20-year-old comes in and we do an ultrasound and we're able to see these 20 follicles, I tell them this is great news. You're 20, you have all these 20 eggs, and this is for this month. And next month, you're gonna get another 20 eggs. Except that when a woman is 20, not all her eggs are good. For every 5 eggs that she has, as young as she is, for every 5 eggs that she has, maybe 3 of them are good. Those are the orange ones. And even a 20-year-old, as healthy and as young as a 20-year-old is, 2 of those eggs out of 5 might not be good. This is a 20-year-old. This is a 45-year-old. You see how things have changed between 20 and 45. Now, 45-year-olds still have good eggs, but these are hard to find. It's how nature does its job.
Even though there are some amazing technologies today like egg freezing or embryo freezing to help women delay this childbearing time in their life, I don't think that either the media or what you hear from other people always really explains the depths of how much struggle there really could be.
Generally, this treatment required several cycles, several trials, and as a doctor, it's hard to describe how I'm feeling, just seeing those patients who have to give up that treatment after having a hard time mentally, physically. Actually, fertility treatment is very hard.
So giving up must be horrendous for men and women.
Yes.
When a celebrity conceives late in life, reproductive life,
We probably know it's an egg donor, or it's possible that she froze embryos a long time ago. It's definitely a misunderstanding, a miscommunication, a miseducation of the public.
I literally wake up every single morning. I'm gonna get emotional and I bless my children because I just feel very, very fortunate that I was able to have them.
I'm someone who married at 37 and had always thought I would have kids, and then it turned out I wasn't going to. And I think it can be a tremendous source of unhappiness.
For me, it wasn't a decision. I don't remember a time when I said, okay, I'm not going to have a family.
It would have helped if I'd known it was grief, or if the doctors and therapists I consulted about my life-wrecking distress had known, but they didn't. Grief is a language that this lost tribe speaks fluently.
Yo pensaba que tenía tiempo, que mi década entre los 30 y los 40 iban a ser suficientes como para que yo pudiera desarrollar mi actividad profesional y después tenía tiempo para ser madre. Y bueno, hice mal los cálculos, postergué porque creí que tenía tiempo.
Did you want to have children?
Sim. Gostaria de ter tido filho há 5 anos atrás. Gostaria. Mas não aconteceu. Mas gostaria sim. Gostaria de ter tido antes. De poder ter tido filho antes.
20代の頃にもっとデートをしてもっといい人を見つけてもっと子供を作るように努力すればよかったと思ってます。
I think if you caught me at the right day in my 20s when I was very in love or excited about a partner, I would say yes. But if you were to pry into that, I might say, oh no, that seems crazy to have a kid in my 20s.
Llegó un momento en mi vida que a lo mejor sí quise de verdad intentarlo nuevamente, pero era muy tarde, too late.
I just want to get synchronized with my husband. With our plan, our saying is still on the same page.
Has he answered you yet?
He did not actually.
Why not ask now?
Yes. We plan to have children for the fact.
I want at least 5 kids, yes.
My husband being ridiculous about that because I am the age delay. You see, I am 44, and then to my friend. You know, he's saying this 5 kids later. I think it's a joke. I feel like I'm a clown. If I lucky, please to pass one.
One's enough.
To me, yes.
Well, best of luck to you both.
And our cultural script, which says, sometime around the age of 30, Mr. Magical Amazing will pop up, I think it is a mistake. If you wait until you're 28 or 30 to find a partner, well, you've got 5 less years of your fertility to recover from bad dating mistakes.
Después de mi divorcio, es el punto. No ha habido una relación significativa que me acompañe en un proceso de ser madre. Porque además, en estos 5 años, este proceso de reconstitución.
Can I ask if you've given up on the idea of becoming a mother one day?
Sí, estoy considerando la inseminación, sí llevar a cabo este proceso.
If I had a magic wand, what would I change? I would have done it earlier. I would have had children in my 30s. I think I'm lucky conceiving in my early 40s, so a lot of women do leave it late and they're not as fortunate as I was. And I would have liked a bigger family. I think it would have been lovely for my son to have had siblings. It's easy to say now, but yes, I think I should have done it earlier.
I was 40 at the time when I started IVF treatments. I had my first transfer, so they do an embryo transfer, and that was on July 31st, and it was successful.
That was 3 weeks ago.
Congratulations.
Well, but they give you these statistics. They say at 41, there's all these complications, and so I'm cautiously optimistic.
Claro, yo lo que más quería era tener muchos hijos. Yo creo que mi mayor arrepentimiento, o uno de mis mayores arrepentimientos, es no haber adelantado, el haber postergado. Y claro, yo creo que de este grupo también de mujeres que fuimos tardíamente mamás, porque cuando quise tener más hijos ya no pude. Tenía estos problemas que muchas de las familias que vienen acá los tienen. Pero el arrepentimiento es tan grande después que uno piensa que también lo tiene que hacer por el otro. O sea, sí, yo estoy muy arrepentida en mi caso.
My thinking right now for having children is we are looking into the adoption process.
In the US, Europe, and Latin America, people planning to adopt was a common story.
I want kids, even if I don't meet someone, I'm probably going to adopt a kid.
I've also been fascinated with the idea of adoption. Hands down, 100% I'm going to adopt.
Não, a gente nunca nem pensou que eu possa ter algum problema para engravidar, e eu acho que se tiver, não seria um problema para a gente adotar uma criança.
For every infant that's available for adoption in the US through the domestic infant adoption system, there are approximately 30 families hoping to adopt that infant. So you can just do the math. That's way more of a demand for an adoptable infant than there are babies available.
And if we adopt children, they might not be infants. They'll probably be older children, maybe 8 years old.
Meanwhile, international adoption is getting harder and harder as more and more countries look after their own orphan children.
I tried to do international adoption. We went to a lot of orphanages in Mexico, Guatemala. I went to one in Costa Rica. And right as we were going to start the process, I got a call saying that, Guatemala had decided not to do any out-of-state adoptions. It was devastating.
Someone choosing to place a child for adoption is a very rare choice. I have a lot of empathy for people who want to be parents, but there's no guarantees that a family that wants to adopt a baby will adopt a baby.
Naturally, becoming a mother isn't for everyone, but sometimes people do change their minds.
I was 32 when I had that biological urge to wanting to have kids. Yeah, to me it came sudden. I didn't really care to have kids, and I just woke up. I felt like, okay, this is my year. I need to have a baby. That was the only thing that I could think of.
And for at least some people planning to be childless for life, test driving being a parent for a day can change minds.
I didn't really want to marry or get a child before joining this program.
Oh, really? You were thinking of being childless?
Yes, I wasn't really sure. I didn't really like the concept of family or getting married. So visiting 4 families changed my view.
But for some people who change their minds, it's simply too late.
Sometimes I realize that when I get old, like my mom's age, I won't be able to have the same experience like her because I don't have a child. So I enjoyed my life, but now I regret.
You regret? Women appear to be much more open to talking about unplanned childlessness, but clearly it affects men too.
So welcome to World Childless Week, everyone. I'm Michael Hughes. Let's go around the room. So how about you go first, Donnie?
I'm Don, and I'm in Los Angeles. I'm childless. My circumstance is not finding a life partner.
Tim, how about you go next?
My name is Tim. I'm German. We have just decided that we will not continue with IVF. 25 years of thinking you would have kids or we would have kids. and out of a sudden realizing, well, we won't.
Thanks, Tim. Ken, it's great to see you here because I know you've been battling.
I'm better now than I was a couple of years ago when I lost my mind for probably about a year. This is the only place where I can freely and openly speak about the feelings of being childless and everything. There's nobody I have at work or a friend or anything like that. No, I spend a lot of lonely times within myself, I guess, going over these things, what never was, what'll never be, and how to deal with it. Hearing people talk about their kids in all situations,
The thing is, you may look at our lives and think that they're like your lives, but with more freedom and cleaner furniture. But what you can't see is our grief.
What's going through your mind right now? Anyone like to share that?
It all stops with us. And as we see the young children around us grow, that's what gets me. Yeah.
You would have been a wonderful father.
Well, maybe you're thinking, actually, this is all a bit melodramatic, Jodie. Surely it's not that bad. Let me just share with you just a few of the things we've lost. That not only will we never have children, but we'll never create our own family. Never throw children's birthday parties. Never take that first day at school photo. We'll never see them maybe grow up, graduate, get married and have their own kids. We'll never be grandmothers and never give the gift of grandchildren to our parents. But I stand here today astonished that I survived the initiation rite it took to join this tribe.
The stories of people who grieve the children they'd planned to have are deeply personal. But behind these personal stories, a very common story emerged, a strikingly symmetrical pattern in the data of every country I researched. And that symmetry finally revealed the singular factor driving low birth rates everywhere. Remember, across the industrialized world, family size has been locked in for a generation or more for those who do become parents. But why does simply delaying parenthood lead to so many people never becoming parents at all? And why does unplanned childlessness so rarely recover? Finding answers to that took me 8 years of research. In 2024, I found myself staring at something extraordinary, a near-perfect symmetrical bell curve. The implications of this curve were so profound that I delayed this documentary by a year to understand it. I call it the vitality curve, showing the number of new mothers by mother's age. It exists for fathers too, peaking just a few years older and falling away just as fast. In recent times, with fewer and fewer of us starting families in our 20s, the vitality curve has stretched and grown flatter and flatter, but it's still there. And remarkably, in every cohesive society, the vitality curve is smooth. There are no bumps and no skew towards later parenthood. Where is the flux of people having children in their mid-30s? And where is the uptick from IVF? The near-perfect symmetry between those who are having children after the peak age and before explains mathematically why delayed parenthood leads to mass unplanned childlessness. Vitality, like a synchronizing force of nature, coordinates birth rates. Regardless of housing, childcare, baby bonuses, or anything else. Important as these things are, of course, they don't determine birth rates because they can't explain the symmetry of the vitality curve. Instead, it's the average age of parenthood in a society that acts like a lock and limits the number of people who will become parents. And my latest research indicates this may all be linked to a drop in social synchronization, people not being on the same page at the same time. And it may be that unless societies return to being on the same page at a younger age, this demographic winter may never end. At its heart, the birth rate crisis is driven by a false promise that young people can have it all. But societies can't beat the vitality curve. It's real, and the risk of missing out on family is high.
If I would have the compatibility with a man, 65%, I'm ready to marry. That is a percentage I do have in my mind.
65%, because nobody finds anybody 100%.
Yeah, that's more than enough. But I'm not looking for any alpha man. I'm not.
Algo que sí he pensado en la vida es que es un poco difícil vivir con una persona todo el tiempo, ¿no? Sin tener que, justamente como los abuelos de antes y las generaciones pasadas, yo creo que era un poco más porque se aguantaban hacerlo, ¿no? Entonces, y ahora las parejas se separan más, con mucho más facilidad. En este momento, en mi familia no tenemos, realmente mi generación no tuvo hijos. Todos los primos por ejemplo, del lado de mi mamá, somos 12 y ninguno tiene hijos. Estamos terminando la línea de la familia de este lado.
Hundreds of years ago, there were hunters and the gatherers. The hunters were men, they would go out there, they were big and strong. As soon as the meat comes home, and then the wife now, it's her turn to step in. If we equate this hunting to us going out and working, then men and women are both hunting. There's no hunter-gatherer version 10 where there should be. So if you're not doing at least as well as I am at work, or you don't have ambitions to do more at home, then how is this going to be a balanced life for me? Then marriage or whatever it is, this construct is convenient for you, and I don't get any benefit. I would want to marry somebody who's doing at least the same or better than me. Bring in the bacon, Bring me my wild animal. Bring me something that makes this worth it.
You're 38. Do you think about maybe getting married one day?
それは思いますね、正直。
いつ
最後に真剣な付き合いをやったのはもう8年前ぐらいですね。ただ急いでもしょうがないんで、そこは本当に出会いとかもあると思うので、そこは焦らずゆっくりでいいかなと、そう思います。
He's not only going to help me, he's also going to help himself. Because if I will be happy, I'll be happy with him. If I'll be angry, my anger will be impacted on him. I don't think any wise man is going to make angry his wife. Not even you. Right?
Yes.
I think I'm looking for probably someone who's the exact opposite of me.
And where do you think you might find this person?
I don't know, maybe walking down the street in Los Angeles on like La Brea and just like, hey.
And for some, there are simply too many people to choose from.
選択肢がいっぱいあるの。
それはあるね。
So there are options.
Yes, options.
Do you worry if you don't have children?
Yeah, I worry about that.
So you do worry?
Yeah, because I don't want to be here by myself every day. Lonely.
Did you think one day you would have a child, or did you not want a child?
I had many choices before because I was young. So before, women in the world, women has no choice. Only to get married, to make a child. Only choice. But now, we women have many choices.
I think you're marrying your ex-husband.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, 3 times.
3 times.
The same man. Yeah.
Because now you know you want to have a child together.
Yeah, I'm 36 years old now. So I think, in my opinion, this is a last chance for me to make a child.
3 years later, Aisam would get her wish. After multiple rounds of expensive IVF, she gave birth to a baby boy. But age is not the only barrier to getting pregnant, as Emi-san found out.
Why did you not have children?
私は I tried でもできなかった。That's why. And 本当に高いですよ。If you want to have a baby.
IVF.
そう。
She was born and raised in a popular suburb of northern Tokyo called Takashima Daira, popular with young families at the time. So this is Takashima Daira.
はい、そうですね。高島平です。これが、私が行った幼稚園、キンダーガーデンですね。そうですね。幼稚園の思い出はたくさんあります。
In the early 1970s, Takashima Daira had a kindergarten crisis. For every place available, there were 10 children waiting. Wind the clock forward and today, Japan has a care home crisis, with people in their 80s and 90s unable to look after themselves, having to wait years for a place in a care home. In this national TV talk show, famous celebrities were asked to watch how old people are left to fend for themselves.
And all of this was triggered by the oil shock, which led to a baby shock and saw delayed parenthood become the societal norm and transformed Japan into this lonely, childless world. And the same baby shock is coming to a town or city near you.
Is absolutely everything negative? Though?
Yeah. Sorry. Everything's negative. Sorry. It's terrible. And the worst thing is you can't get out of it.
Everyone just starts having lots of babies.
But why is that going to happen? It's like waking up today and expecting today to be really different to yesterday. Something fundamental has to happen for behavior to change.
Yeah.
And the kind of fundamental changes that might happen, we're talking after both economic and social challenges that today we're not geared up for. Maybe when things like that happen, people will change and will prioritize having their own family again. Maybe that will become the core thing. But something fundamental is going to have to change. We're talking about rapidly increasing taxes. We're talking about failing pension systems, healthcare systems that can't be funded. We're talking about loneliness of old people. And we're talking about street after street of derelict houses, with some people living in those areas with dereliction around them. That's the reality of what's already happening in parts of Europe and Japan. And have you been back in that time? 30 years?
30年間一度も帰ってないです。
懐かしい。このお山の公園、このお山の公園にほとんど毎日来て遊んでました。ショック。全部閉まってる。でももっとここは賑やかでお店が全部開いてました。子供がたくさんいました。毎日本当に子供しかいなかったです。子供だけ。あ、このドラッグストアは多分昔からあります。古いね。
What a change from 1973 when the global oil shock triggered unplanned childlessness here. It's easy to understand why young people delayed the idea of becoming parents. What few knew then is that for many, this would mean childlessness for life. Occupancy of these 10,000 apartments remains almost 100%. The difference now is the lack of children. In 2007, the local elementary school closed, just like thousands of schools all across Japan. The final intake was just one boy.
こんにちは。高島平で生まれてここで育ったんですけど、ここので30年ぶりぐらいに帰ってきて、ここの商店街にほとんどシャッターが閉まっていてちょっとびっくりしたんですけど。
やめちゃったからね、みんな。もう日本中こう全部シャッター通りよ。日本中シャッター通り商店街。
And it's true. There isn't a city, town, or village across Japan that hasn't been impacted by delayed parenthood. Do we know the name of this mall? What was the name of the town first?
Suzaka.
Suzaka, yes, Suzaka. Town of, I think, 51,000 people. And we're close to the center near the station, I think. We found this mall randomly. And out of 26 stores, 5 are open, 21 are closed permanently. So, wow. That's less than 20% open. Do you think communities across Japan are going to have budget problems in the next 10 years or so?
Yeah, 10 years. I think 5 years, when we see the real situation in this region, maybe within 3 years, the city or towns that have to think about like bankrupting or something like that. So,
and is low birth rate a key factor in that?
Yeah. I'm just thinking why. I'm just thinking why.
One of the saddest things I find in Japan in the last 15 years, 6,000 schools have closed. From this, you have a loss of many things, including a loss of community around these school areas. This is one of the most sad things I see everywhere.
Not only in Japan.
Not only in Japan. It's like a hidden problem, but it starts to eat at a community, really, as years go by.
You'd like to make memo from your story about like what is the other town doing?
It'll be short.
そんなに長くなるかもしれない。
I was hoping this long-serving mayor would share the town's secrets on coping with population decline. Instead, he wanted ideas from other parts of the world, but I hadn't come across successful strategies anywhere. I think from what I see that once a town starts to decline population, it becomes more and more difficult to stop the decline as many homes become vacant, tax base goes down, that young people get pushed away from these towns. And no one has the answer, because once it starts to go down, very difficult to stop.
It's difficult to find new workers. 新しい働いてくる人たちを見つけるというのは、昔よりも難しくなった。
ものすごく難しい。はい。
It's significantly different when they compare to the past.
おばあちゃん一人で住んでる人多いの。
そうなんですか？
一人住まいよ、ばっかり行きまいよ。そういう世の中になっちゃった。
You just told me おばあさん一人がたくさん住んでいますって。おばあさんって今だいたい80歳以上。
そうね、80代。
80代ですか？
While we were filming, unknown to me, our production assistant Mie was talking to some locals. They explained how the week before, a 90-year-old woman with no family had thrown herself from the roof.
One man said, right there. She fell off because she was smiling.
Back near the station, I asked a store owner and his mother how often this happens. On a weekly basis, in this Tokyo suburb, old people were throwing themselves from the roofs or their corpses were being found in their homes. These aren't aging societies. These are yesterlands. Hidden yesterlands. A humanitarian crisis is unfolding of senior people left to live alone and die alone. A crisis few people want to talk about. I'd hoped to meet the director of the largest crematorium in southwest Germany to ask what happens to the dead when there's no one to bury them.
It's a growing businesses. People haven't got any family. The deaths are thrown away. I call Mr. Kunstler. He says that he has not to tell this because they make him...
Yes. I never found out what was exactly meant by throwing the dead away, but I didn't need to. I understood that these are people who likely spend their last days alone without family or friends to support them.
Entonces estoy de acuerdo en que recién estamos comenzando a pensar los problemas que va a traer esa falta de población.
I think it's sad that we're only starting to think of problems like loneliness. In Tokyo, lonely old people are even jumping from the roof.
No había pensado en esas consecuencias, ¿no? De la soledad. Sabía de las tasas de suicidio alto en Japón, pero de gente joven, por la presión de una sociedad muy exigente, ¿no? Competitiva, pero ahora que lo mencionas, sí, la soledad del anciano. Es verdad, no, es un tema que yo no he considerado.
But there's something that seems kind of pessimistic and sad about wanting to see human numbers decline. I realize we've got a very crowded world, but it sounds kind of lonely.
But not everyone shares my concerns for life in these lonely yesterlands.
I've never heard this concern. What I continue to hear about is overpopulation, because there's just so many people, we're going to max out.
We need to move the planet. I know Elon Musk is working on that.
It's interesting because we talk about declining birth rates, but we also talk about overpopulation. So, what is it? Is it overpopulation or is it declining?
Well, I thought you were saying it's going to increase.
The total population will increase for a time because of aging, but birth rates are falling almost everywhere.
How does, left-brained, how does that make sense if the birth rate is going down?
I know, it's confusing. There's a Swedish professor who calls it the fill-up effect. We're just filling up with older people these days.
We got 3 billion more. I'll do it once more. The old die, the rest grow.
People who preach about population growth are simply living in the past.
Sometime in the next 15 years, the end will come. And by the end, I mean an utter breakdown of the capacity of the planet to support humanity.
The president ought to say, from here on out, no intelligent, patriotic American family ought to have more than 2 children, preferably 1.
Unless now we think of what America's going to be like, this increase in population, we're going to reap the whirlwind.
In the late 1960s, a young butterfly specialist, Paul Ehrlich, rocketed to fame with his passion for population control. He appeared on Johnny Carson's Tonight Show no less than 18 times and went on to found Population Connection, an organization known as Zero Population Growth at the time.
It was about 10 years ago this month that Dr. Paul Ehrlich made his first appearance on The Tonight Show, and it elicited probably more mail than any guest at that time we have ever had on the show.
Ehrlich has been credited with starting the population control movement, views he still holds to this day.
I do not think my language is too apocalyptic. The idea that every woman should have as many babies as she wants is, to me, exactly the same kind of idea as everybody ought to be permitted to throw as much of their garbage into their neighbor's backyard as they want.
50 years on, the organization Ehrlich founded remains the largest educator in the US on population matters.
Our materials are integrated into the classroom. We have about 50,000 teachers in the US who reach about 3 million US students every year. And we're simply trying to get students to think about these issues.
And yet one topic they don't cover, the transition to low fertility and the resulting challenges from population decline. Do you have any concern at all about those countries like Japan or South Korea? Does your organization look at that as a concern or perhaps purely a good thing? Let's come back to that. It's just when you talk about
I'm happy to go there. It's just wherever you want to go.
But there's some parts of the world where it's quite scary because there's so few children now. In Japan, schools are closing at a rate of 1 or 2 per day. We have just walked no more than 5 minutes from the first school we saw was closed. This one's closed too.
I think the concerns are overblown. We seem to be doing okay. It doesn't seem like we've gone into some sort of an economic death spiral. What we need to do is remove barriers that prevent people from being productive members of the workforce. I've seen research, for example, that shows that BMW in Germany found that its older workers in assembly plants were less productive than the younger workers. But then they looked at why. They did 2 things. They put in wooden floors instead of concrete floors because old knees tend to be sore knees. Second, they installed magnification equipment because older eyes tend to not be quite as good as young ones. The head of Deutsche Bank once said, young people run faster, but old people know where the shortcuts are. And so break down those barriers. And if you do that, our economy in terms of economic growth will be just fine.
Wooden floors and magnifying glasses are not going to scratch the surface of this crisis. A more common suggestion is that automation and AI will save us, but there's one fundamental flaw. Robots don't pay taxes.
I'm an economist. I was basically educated in the 1980s. Demographics played almost no role in economic theory. Although now working on Japan, I see that it's the biggest factor. When societies age, those who are in employment, they need to become more productive in order to support the larger portion of people who are out of employment. This ratio is getting worse and worse. It's easy to predict the future old generation will probably have to work much longer than they now expect or accept worse living conditions.
Old people can still vote. They're going to vote for policies to support higher pensions, which is going to hurt younger people if they have to support that. And so.
This is certainly true in Germany, I would say, where pension reforms have been against the younger generation.
One of the things that they are trying to do in the reform is to create a capitalization system where the guy that is working today saves the money, put in the bank, and that is the money that's going to finance his retirement, okay? But it's a process that is very expensive because then the guy that is working today, it has to finance the retired people and itself twice. And this transition process is very difficult.
Burgeoning elderly care budgets won't be our only financial headache. Fewer and fewer taxpayers means the annual interest payments on our burgeoning national debts will be shared by fewer and fewer people.
But if you're a country that has a huge level of debt, for example, you are expecting one of 2 things to happen. Either your workforce is going to grow, or the productivity of that workforce is going to grow, because that's going to generate the extra income that you need to pay the debt. Well, if your workforce is shrinking, the productivity has to go up even faster. And here's the thing that we're just starting to talk about, which is that in fact, as your workforce ages, productivity goes down.
Another inevitable consequence of the birth gap crisis is that communities are going to have too much housing for the shrinking number of people left to live there. And to get a sense of what that's going to feel like, we only need to go to Detroit, Michigan. The city itself was once home to 2 million people before that number fell by over 60%. As its population left,
Once fancy neighborhoods decayed as home after home became vacant, leaving the value of the other properties in free fall.
And we turn next to a big headline tonight out of America's iconic motor city, Detroit, waving the white flag, the city filing for bankruptcy.
78,000 abandoned buildings, 63% of its population gone. So empty, the city of Paris could fit inside the vacant space.
Detroit's population decline was triggered by an exodus of workers, but the math is the same. Communities with falling workforces, taxpayers, and budgets will soon look and feel very different. Once Detroit's population finally stabilized, it was able to plan a way out of its difficulties. The problem for nations with long-term low birth rates is that until birth rates return to replacement level, the decline will never stop. And just like Detroit before its bankruptcy, economies will suffer when year after year there will be fewer customers and revenue for businesses, and for governments, a shrinking tax base. We will have to retrofit our entire economies to somehow function in our decaying yesterlands. That merits a whole new branch of economics, retronomics, the study of how to continually retrofit our economies when growth becomes a thing of the past. And having built our economies based on growth, that's going to be a major change.
It's a change that can be coped with in a number of different respects. A number of things have to happen, though. You have to reinvent government pretty fundamentally. You can't stay with a pay-as-you-go pension system, for example, if you've got 2 retirees for every worker. You've got to reinvent that. You've got to turn that all the way around. You probably aren't going to continue to pay people more and more and more over the course of their lives. All of these things require what could be big, wrenching changes. And this is just the economic side. The social side is really the terra incognita. I mean, what do you do in a world where the playgrounds are empty and the nursing homes are all full?
I mean, the really grim scenario is that at some point the government simply cannot support pensions. And people look at their parents and say, "Dear God, I can't end up like that." Or they look at childless old people they know and say, "Dear God, I cannot end up like that. I'd better have some kids because someone's got to take care of me when I'm older."
私子供がいないので、将来一人になった時に自分で何もできなくなったら、今お金がないと多分誰も私の面倒を見てくれる人がいないし、そうね。
I think about my future and me going to retire eventually, not actually having any money. That's not just me, that's a whole generation. I don't know if there's any historical examples of a country really turning this around.
No.
No?
No.
That's bad.
It's hard to be optimistic. Are you?
No, I'm not. Especially like 15, 20 years from now, we're losing about 1 million population a year. 1 million population is
the size of a city.
It is like a huge city, metropolitan
Per
city
year.
every year. So if Japan cannot deal with it, it's going to be really business to many countries.
Singapore needs more babies, and the government's taking extraordinary steps to boost the country's fertility rate.
Liberal leader Justin Trudeau is promising more money for parents of infants.
With private companies stepping up to fix Taiwan's population crisis, one bank is doing its part by doubling its baby bonus for staff.
So the more kids you pop out, the more money you get.
That's right.
The problem with baby bonuses is that it's not clear they change people's long-term desired family size. In many countries that introduce those pronatal bonuses, you get a blip up and then you get a slump afterwards because you just change the timing.
We've been looking at areas in southern India where you also have fertility rates similar to Europe.
Sure.
Which shocked me.
Isn't that fascinating?
The vitality curve can be full of surprises. In 2023, India overtook China to become the most populous nation on Earth. Yet births in India have fallen by over 20% since they peaked back in 2001. The number of people aging has simply hidden this drastic fall in the number of children.
So I just pulled population data for India yesterday, and I've just pulled up a map. All of southern India has birth gaps. All up the east coast and 2 states in the north. People think they're having too many babies in India. My gosh. Overall, India has a birth gap. It's crazy. It's crazy.
In India, well, what's your perception? Are people having large families or smaller families?
Nowadays, they are moving towards small family.
Small family.
Yeah, it is because of the mindset of the people now changing.
But for you and your friends, you have big families or small?
No, small family. Ordinary family, only 2 children.
I've been living in Mumbai for the last 42 years. I've got 2 kids, 2 boys.
I got 2 kids. 1 daughter and 1 son.
I don't have any children because we decided not to have the kids.
म्हणजे ते असं आता सासूला आहे ना, म्हणजे मुलग्याचीच एक तरी मुलगा हवा म्हणून त्यासाठी ऑपरेशन करून दिलेलं आहे म्हणजे सासूने. लागोपाठ 3 मुली झाल्या, थांबा 1 मुलगा असू द्या.
फॅमिली कंडिशन, फायनान्शियल कंडिशन एवढी नाही आहे की 2 पेक्षा जास्त चिल्ड्रन सांभाळू शकतील. सगळं एज्युकेशन सगळं महाग झालं आहे, त्याच्यामुळे 2 खूपच झाले त्याच्यापेक्षा. स्वतःला कळतं की ग्रॅज्युएशन होऊन पण एवढं चांगलं नोकरी असं मिळत नाही आहे, त्याच्यामुळे त्यांना पण चांगलं शिकवलं पाहिजे. स्टार्टिंगला CA करायचं होतं, पण फॅमिली कंडिशन एवढी नव्हती व्यवस्थित.
Why is she crying?
She still wants to become a chartered accountant.
You're crying because you want to be an accountant. So what are your plans for your future?
My friends who have children, they don't get to live their lives. I'm not saying that the lives that they are living right now are less than perfect or not something that they wanted, but it stops them from doing some things. And I don't like not having that freedom. I keep oscillating between the idea of having my own children or adopting or even not having any children at all.
How many children do you think you might want to have?
At least 2.
Maybe more? Same questions to you. You're 13.
किती मुलं पाहिजेत तुला?
Why only 1?
एकच का? एकात 2 तरी कुठे
Thank you.
By 2024, 90% of India's states were already below replacement level. And just like Japan, Europe, and the US, this trend isn't being driven by one-child families. Instead, a decrease in vitality and increased childlessness is taking its toll. India, like its neighbors, is being transformed into an inverted world. What a change.
বিয়ে দিছি অল্প বয়সী সব বড়রা দিলাম 12-13 বছর এটা ভাই ছেলে 6 মতো বড় ছিলাম আর এই মেয়ে কিছুটা পড়ছিল আর কি 5 পর্যন্ত না 5 পর্যন্ত পড়ছিল আর ওরা লেখাপড়া না
আমার 3 জন ছেলে মেয়ে 2 ছেলে 1 মেয়ে বড় ছেলে এসএসসি পাস করাইছি ওই ছেলে এখন কাজ করে আর মেয়েরা 8 এ পড়ে ছোট ছেলেরা 3 তে পড়ে করতে পারতো ভালোভাবে পড়াশোনা করাইতে পারতো লেখাপড়া খাওয়া দাওয়া কাপড় চোপড় সব কিছু একই নিয়ে দিতে পারতো এখন তো বড় পরিবার দেখলে বড় পরিবার হইলে তো মনে কিছু ওভাবে হয় না
So, how long to walk up to the house?
20 minutes.
And you walked there yourself
to
find a large family for me?
Yeah. Actually, that is the house of Kanchaman Tamang, who has the large family, 6 kids.
Because you couldn't find large families anywhere here?
No, I went to different villages, maybe talked with hundreds of people, and I didn't find one. So this is where I found.
So Nepal is really changing.
Yeah, it is.
20 minutes. Okay, let's go.
We can take some rest.
I'm happy to see you guys.
With no access to electricity or running water, the family all sleep in one room and share their living space with their livestock.
Ahora जन्माएको यस्तो भएको पहिला 4वटा छोरी भइदियो 4वटा छोरी भएपछि अब सबैले गमाउनेले दाजुभाइ थिए अनि बनाउन अब आफ्नो खालको भन्दै सन्तान नहुने भयो यसको छोरै रहन्छ भन्न पेर्न थाल्यो अब त्यतातिर लाग्यो मार्काको कुरा गरेर कुरातिर लाग्यो त्यो लागेपछि अनि हामीले जन्माएको छ.
But how times have changed for their children's generation.
Can she read and write?
जान्छ.
And did your husband get an education?
5 सम्म पढेर सक्नुभयो.
So how did you meet?
मोबाइल
By mobile app?
हजुर.
Without access to electricity, the girls have to hike to a local village 30 minutes away to charge their phones.
How many children would you like to have?
छैन त्यो एउटा मात्रै हो.
यो धेरै बच्चा पाउने छैन.
धेरै जन मेरो पढाउन सक्दैन त्यही भएर.
Was it important to have a son?
छोरा हुनै पर्ने भनेको छैन.
The birthgap project threw up many surprises, but perhaps nothing more than the dark side of migration.
For example, in case of our country, I'm telling you repeatedly, migration, we are, my God, very much worried. Very much worried.
About people leaving?
About people living here. People are crying. My God, horrible. Parents are alone there. So who will help them actually? How long will you be here in Kathmandu?
Until Tuesday.
Until Tuesday. I don't know, if you get time, actually, you could give one lecture to our young Philly students. Why not today?
Put on the spot, all I could think of was to ask these young demographers about their own families and to ask more about migration.
I learned so much from Professor today about migration, the impact, because I think most people in developed countries think that inviting immigrants to come is probably a good thing to help solve this problem, to bring workers, but I'm realizing it's not very good for Nepal if everybody leaves.
Nobody wants to go far away from their family, generally. If we have opportunities, a lot of opportunities here, then there's no chance that we should go abroad or somebody else.
Good point. I agree with you. You agree? Yeah. Okay, I'm going to take a poll now. I want to find out who's got the most children here. Has anyone got 10 children? No. 5 children or more? 3 children or more? No? 2 children? Exactly 2. Okay, 1 child? Same question, but it's your parents' generation. Did anyone have a parent with 10 or more children? 8. Okay, 8. Okay, 8's the highest. Anyone higher than 8? 6, 8. So there's been a big change in Nepal, I think, inside 1 generation, really.
Nepal fell below the replacement level tipping point in 2017 from double that value as recently as the year 2000.
The fertility rate, I read 20 years ago, Nepal had this plan to get it down to replacement level. And that has happened now. But does Nepal not really mind if it falls further?
It's not good, so falling below the replacement level, I actually don't like that. It should not be the case like that of European countries, North America. Replacement level is enough.
Today, 75% of us now live in countries below the replacement level. And what surprises many is that even across Africa, birth rates have been falling fast. Overall, since 1980, women in sub-Saharan Africa, on average, are having one fewer child every 15 years. It's not difficult to predict where this trend is going. Africa is on the exact same downward path as the rest of our aging world.
What I want is more male children. I have one child now, this is him sitting by me. His name is Destiny. I was in GS3 when I lost my dad, so I need to drop out because there was no help for me to further my education. So I need to drop. Because of the situation of our country, poverty is everywhere, and no help, so we need more children, more male. It's my tradition, it's our culture, it's my tradition. One day, one of my sons will do more than me.
In parts of Nigeria where there's still extreme poverty, we find families like these shoemakers who still desire to have larger families. So you just had your 6th child at age 32. Do you plan to have more children?
Don't do 6 children for Lagos, don't go.
While birth rates are falling more slowly in Nigeria, from the mix of stories I heard in Malawi, I could sense the start of a transition.
Nakwatira ndi nsaka 18 koma sori ndi watini na chiro chimwisi anangata ana follow amuna anamwali oyo ndi wachi yamende nayo bana then ndimene mbada mwalira ndani ndaonjezera
poyamba mimi nikafuna khanda na follow then tabereka na awiriwo anapezeka zota bambo then ndinaona kuti ndikwabwino kukhanda na awiri omwe amafuna beta khanda ana ena koma kwa ineyo awiri amandikwanira.
As you know that here in Malawi, education is the key to all things. For my school, I almost walk for 1 hour to reach my school.
By foot?
Yeah.
For 1 hour?
Yeah.
Every day?
Each and every day, 2 and 4.
So you're walking 2 hours to school every day?
Yeah.
Do you yourself plan to get married?
Of course, yes.
And you'd like to have children maybe? Or?
Of course, yes.
How many?
Only 2.
And do you plan to have children?
Yes.
How many?
1.
Ideally, at what age?
I think at 26, that's when I will finish my school because I would like to have a master's degree. So to reach that goal, I think it will take me almost 6 years from now.
I understand in Malawi men sometimes have more than one wife. How would you feel if your husband had a second wife?
For myself, I can suggest to divorce.
You would divorce?
Yeah.
Me too, I'll go for that.
Me too. So I can say a lot of things.
Sorry, 1 second.
Okay, they want to get in, they stay here. So that's why
they're home. The chickens are giving us audio issues.
Malawi felt far from where my journey began. Yet hearing these 3 students talk of their dreams for education, careers and family, I felt I could have been listening to young people's challenges in Tokyo, Milan, London or LA. Here, it was like going back in time and witnessing the transition to delayed parenthood with my own eyes. And the vitality curve tells us that delayed parenthood on any continent will lead to high levels of unplanned childlessness and soon enough, birth gaps.
Do I think that the birth gap could get that wide in South Africa? Maybe you just find people having children slightly later. I don't think that would happen in South Africa.
But what about the idea of unplanned childlessness, where people first focus on education and building careers, and then when they're ready, they find they don't have a partner or they no longer can have children?
That could happen. Yeah.
In every low birth rate nation I've researched, it's the average age of parenthood that determines birth rates and the level of childlessness. But why does the average age limit the number of people who will become parents? It comes down to something I call reproductive synchrony. The more of us who reach the stage of life for dating, bonding, and starting families at the same time, the more births will follow in a remarkably predictable way. But when those years stretch out, when family formation happens later and over a wider range of ages, fewer people become parents at all. It's that simple. And that's why any solution to the birth rate crisis that ignores the age of parenthood is going to fail, because ready or not, nature doesn't wait.
I'm kind of not ready.
Hell no. Hell to the no. I'm not ready to have kids.
I'm young now. I'm 26, so right now I don't think about children.
I don't think that it is something that I can decide right now.
It's just not so much a topic right now.
If I do get to 32 and I haven't met somebody, I think perhaps I would start to be more inclined to worrying about that.
I would be really sad if I found out kids weren't an option. I mean, although I don't want kids right now, I do want to be a mother one day.
I see so many girls wants to have children. There are some girls who don't want to have children, but there are many girls who wants to have children. I do sometimes worry that if I don't have children, I could be lonely. Yeah.
And if it turns out that you don't have a partner or can't have a child in your mid to late 30s?
I certainly would feel like there's something missing.
Let me share something with you that in Japan today, less than half of women turning 26 without a child will ever become mothers. What has to change?
Well, can I think a little bit?
Without change, this birth gap crisis will never end. And we will get to watch our communities fade away like civilizations of the past. Time is on no one's side when it comes to this crisis.
It's really a difficult question. Yeah, there are so many things that we need to change.
After 9 years making this documentary, that's my conclusion too. Many things have to change to support the young. So where should we even start? For me, it begins with education and awareness. Awareness of the likelihood of becoming a parent by age drawn from real-world data. Students should know these probabilities early so they can better plan their lives. An awareness that finding a partner is the key to starting a family. An awareness that whether we like it or not, dating is a race, and the longer we wait to settle down, the less likely it will ever happen. But awareness alone will not be enough. Societies must reinvent themselves around younger parenthood so that those who want to have children earlier in life are supported and not penalized. Education should be streamlined and shift towards lifelong learning, allowing students to start their careers sooner. Employers should publish how many of their staff go on to become parents, so young people can choose career paths and workplaces that will truly support them. And government policy should focus mainly on younger parents. We have all the evidence from data and history that not all nations are likely to survive this crisis. Those that do will rebuild everything around the young.
there's no right time. Como que no pasa por la mente, pasa por lo que uno siente con la persona con la que está.
Es una decisión tan personal que yo creo que más que nosotros incentivar a que otras mujeres tengan hijos, que la intención de tenerlo.
굉장히 힘든 것 같아요. 내가 없어요, 내가. 일단은 어떠한 그 금전적인 여유나 어떤 삶에 대한 여유보다도 제일 큰 행복을 누릴 수 있는 거는
I don't think there is ever one reason for having children, nor not wanting to have children. So for me, it's obviously a very personal choice. And oftentimes people find it absolutely baffling that as a school teacher, I don't want children and I have to justify my stance, particularly as a woman. I know for a fact my husband does not get that at all.
Sí, digamos, respeto a la gente que también toma la decisión de no pasar por esta experiencia, pero como que, digamos, no me imagino yo la vida sin haber pasado por esta experiencia. Me faltaría algo, digamos.
I think the only thing I worry about is if, like people say to me all the time, well, you're going to regret this later. Which I think is just one of those society manipulation things, because it's a big job, it's a hard job, and I don't think it is for everyone.
After having the children and I got to know another joy of life, my priority of my life totally changed.
In a good way or a different way, or?
Both. I think to have children, have a baby, it's something, it's a miracle.